Good evening, everyone. Today is February 19th. The time is 6 p.m. and this is the Acushnet Planning Board. This meeting is being recorded for future viewing on the town's YouTube page, local cable channel, and we are live via Teams tonight. Can I get a motion to open the planning board meeting?
Motion to open the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a quorum tonight. Can we introduce ourselves, please?
Victoria Alfaro, town planner.
Peter Guyappa, member. Steve Boucher, member.
Mark Francois, chairman.
Brian Deschamps, member.
Okay. Victoria sent out the minutes on December 4th. Everybody was in attendance. If anybody had a chance to look them over, if you got any questions, comments, concerns.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, both for February 5th and 4th, rather.
No, February 5th and
Yeah.
December 4th.
All right.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fabulous. All right, moving right along. We have a public hearing tonight. Can I get a motion to open a public hearing?
Motion to open a public hearing.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
This is site plan review for Zero Middle Road, map 23, lot 1B. Applicant owner is Chris Ciano at Meet in the Middle LLC. Representative Chris Vandenberg at Site Tech Engineering and Consultant, Inc. Scope of the work is proposed construction of a single-story commercial storage building with office space and a contractor's yard for material and supply storage. Is there a representative here from Site Tech?
Yes, there is. Good evening. For the record, my name is Steve Giosa. I am filling in for Chris this evening. Chris was the project manager on this particular project, but I've been asked to make the presentation to the board this evening. The owners, Cristiano and his wife Janelle, it's school vacation week. Obviously, they would like to have been here in person, but are not able to be. I don't know if they're coming in on their Teams meeting or not. What I would like to do is give you a brief overview of the project. This is a 26-acre parcel of land. We are located on Middle Road running along this edge of the property, and Morse's Lane right opposite what you'll see will be the proposed entrance to this particular site. There is the main power transmission line that runs through a section of the property on the opposite end of where this development is proposed. And there's actually an old City of New Bedford water easement that actually runs through probably about 2/3 of the way into the property, but not near any of the proposed activity that we have to present to you this evening. So looking at the plans, same orientation as the aerial photograph. Here's Middle Road, Morse's Lane. The property is this parcel. It actually, from this point, which is the property line of the site, extends about 800 feet, 900 feet of frontage on Middle Road all the way down to the power line. So we're basically at the far northeast corner of the site with what we're proposing. And when we evaluated this site, we looked at this area for two reasons. Number one, we have mapped out a wetland area that exists in this area, and actually quite a bit of dry land to the back, and then there's another pocket of dry land as we go further to the west on the site. But this area set up well for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's an existing cleared field for the most part. You may or may not know that this site has a forest management plan in place with the town for the majority of the site. There's actually about 6 acres of the site that were excluded from the forest plan. That included the piece of property where the power lines go. I think that was about 2.5 acres. And there was about a 5 or 6 acre piece in this area surrounding this house. This house was originally part of this overall parcel and was subdivided out probably about a year or so ago. And that coincided with the open field area that we are proposing to do our work in at this time. So the forest plan actually expires in July of this year, and they are working with a consultant to modify that and go forward. But the plan before you tonight, and I think I'm just gonna go right to the grade of the plan, because it shows a little bit more detail, is to create a contractor yard and storage facility for Chris's business. Chris owns JC Excavation, wants to locate his business here. And I know there was a little confusion early on this with some of the information that Chris Vandenberg had put together that referred to a plan that Cristiano and Meet in the Middle were going to propose, which originally was going to be a building generally in this location here on the site. He contemplated a multi-tenant commercial storage facility, and we did present that to the Zoning Board of Appeals last summer. The Zoning Board wasn't comfortable with that particular approach because of the multi-tenant approach and being able to control what people did in the particular tenant spaces. So the applicants withdrew that petition, filed a new one, went to the Zoning Board to get a special permit to allow the use before you. What we have presented to the board is exactly the layout that the Zoning Board of Appeals considered last summer and actually granted the special permit for, which is limited to a single tenant or a single user, that user being Cristiano and his business. So the landowner is going to be, obviously in this case, the applicant, and if approved, the operator of this facility for his business. And we definitely are not looking to change that or any of the other conditions that the zoning board imposed on that. But we know that there was some confusion with the application. We just wanted to clarify that right at the beginning of the presentation. So the plan is to have an access way coming in at this edge of the property, so the far northeast corner of the site, be a paved access which would lead back to the rear area where we would now construct the building. And we're looking to have about 1,000 square feet set aside for the business office, just paperwork. This is not a business that there are customers coming here. It really is just for Chris to do his paperwork, billings, estimating projects. And then we'd have a 4-bay garage for storage of materials and also to bring his equipment inside so he can store some of his equipment in a controlled environment. And also be able to do any minor maintenance that he needs to do in a controlled environment inside the structure. We've set it up with handicap ADA compliant parking stall, van accessible, 7 parking spaces. The 7 spaces meet the zoning requirements based on the size of the building. The idea is that his employees may come here, leave their vehicles here, take a company truck, go to a job site, then come back. And obviously the owner and any of the other staff would have on-site parking set back from the main road on the site. In addition to the access and the garage and office space here, we're looking to create a material storage area with bins in this location here. So having some crushed stone, some mulch, other items that screen loam that may be stockpiled in small bin areas here. Access off the driveway coming in, able to circulate through, and then return out to Middle Road. When we presented this to the zoning board, we came in with a plan that we wanted to set this storage bin area back off the road. And so we did set it back quite a ways from the sideline of Middle Road. We're also proposing to build an earthen berm between this storage area and the Middle Road area. And that would allow a visual break, and that berm is about 2 or 3 feet high. And then we have a proposal to plant Leyland cypress trees on the top of the berm, and they grow very rapidly. And so immediately we're going to have an evergreen buffer, and that's shown on the landscaping plan, that would buffer this area and this activity from the public way. And we thought that was an important element. When we went to the zoning board, They did mention that we should add some additional evergreen plantings along this border, separating us from the abutter that Chris originally bought the property from. So we have added some evergreen plantings here and here, opposite where their house is, so that would provide an immediate screen as well. And the site is a little bit depressed in this area, so they're sitting up a little higher, so we'll be planting on this little bit of slope that would be created. Finally, there's a storage area that's being created here for any of the excess equipment that he might have. We could store that in a flat area, a relatively flat area here to the rear of the site. So no storage in this front section here. This will be preserved and as a buffer zone to the street. We've got a stormwater detention basin being proposed, so the flow is all away from Middle Road, so we have no runoff being directed into the public way. All of the runoff comes into the site, will flow down to a water quality unit, then drain into a detention pond, then discharge into the wetlands where the flow naturally wants to go. We've done percolation tests for a septic system right in this area here in front of the office, so there'll be a small office, small septic system. Septic system meets the town regulations as well as Title V. It's under review by the Board of Health, and that would be located in this area here. And then we're proposing, there is town water available in Middle Road, so we'd be looking to bring the water in to serve the domestic water use for the building. Operationally, the zoning board set hours of operation for Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And then Saturday, I believe it's 7 a.m. to, I think, 3 p.m. We put that in a letter to you as well. And obviously, the applicant would have no operation on Sunday. Most of the time, a job will come in, Chris will send his equipment out to a job site, the equipment will stay there for the duration of the job. So this isn't a facility that's gonna get a lot of traffic in and out of here over the course of the day, or even during the course of the week. It's typically, he'll go to the job site, he has jobs that go on months on end, or some that may last a week, but the equipment's not brought back here every day. So it's very infrequent traffic utilizing this facility, so we think that's a plus in terms of impact to the neighborhood. We've got a large wooded buffer as we head down in this westerly direction, so we did not propose any screening on this side because this will, obviously, it's a wetland system, it'll remain natural, provides a nice buffer heading down the road in this westerly direction from the proposed activity. I think that's an overview. Now, I think the board may know Merrill Associates was retained by the town, or at the applicant's expense, to review the project for both, I think, planning purposes and conservation. They have issued a report on that. We've gone through their report. There are a number of items we'll have to address, nothing major. We have no problem agreeing to address all of those particular issues. So we'll be submitting to you a revised plan and a response to Merrill's comment letter. I would think, again, the board is probably going to want to see that response and be comfortable that we have, in fact, addressed those concerns. So tonight we'd be looking for the board's input, any public input, and then look for probably a continuance to your next meeting, and that'll give Chris in the office enough time to make the necessary changes, work with Merrill. And we do have a conservation, we have not met with conservation yet. Our hearing with them is next week, and then they're gonna schedule a site walk for, I think they were saying, first week in March. So that'll give time for conservation to also get us some input in that, any changes we need to make that might affect them. But we have maintained the 25-foot no-touch zone that they like to see adjacent to the wetland system. The septic system is well over 100 feet from the wetland resource area. We think we meet all of their performance standards for stormwater control. And I think Merrill's report asked us to look at a couple of drainage items a little bit differently, but we don't see that impacting the design in any way. They wanted us to widen the berm for long-term maintenance of the drainage. So I think in general, I think we're in pretty good shape with Merrill's review, and try and answer any questions you may have.
What does that 100-foot buffer line represent, the one that goes through the building?
This is the limit of jurisdiction technically of the Conservation Commission. So there's a wetland offsite to the east, and then this is the wetland, so it's 100 feet from this line here. And all that does is it demonstrates, if we had been able to keep all the work out here, we wouldn't have to go to conservation. But the fact that we have to do some grading, the drainage system, this area of storage, this area here is in the buffer zone. They're all allowed activities under the Wetlands Protection Act and under the conservation regulations, but it does require us to get their concurrence that we are in compliance.
So I got one question, just the nature of the beast, this type of work, what this project gonna be used for, is, I know we've got asphalt pavement going down. And I think that's just, I think that's before any operations have to go in place, because you don't have a track pad, you don't have anything down over here to grab anything that could be leaving the site, basically, leaving this property, heading out onto Middle Road, tracking gravel, anything else that's, could be falling from the truck or stuck in the truck's wheels from whatever, from loading, everything else, because this area here is gravel. I'm assuming they're gonna put something that's good gravel inside.
Exactly.
However,
We need it to be stable to work on, and like, there will be an anti-tracking pad during the construction period.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the only part, the only part that's gonna be paved is the entrance and the front parking area.
The front parking, where we're gonna see the most traffic or the most activity with the vehicles coming in and out, going to the garage space, and then also to, obviously, the parking stalls in front of the building.
Well, your front page has got a good little plot here of what is required for setbacks and what you have provided. So as far as the planning board's concerned, you've hit all the setbacks for front, side, rear, depths, you've hit all of those. Like you said, there is an issue with a letter that came from the abutter, which I did read the owner's letter, which doesn't seem to be an issue, but we still, as a board, we need to hear from the building department that he's okay with everything. I think he might have even sent it out to town council just to get their thumbs up. So as soon as we hear from them, that would be good for us. You're right, also, that we need to hear from conservation. You'll see them in a week. We should plan our next meeting once you're basically done with them and then we should have an answer from the building by then as well.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And again, we did send our letter to the attorney who's representing the abutter, and he thanked me in an email back.
Oh, good, yeah.
For
I don't think there'll be an issue. I mean, it just seems like it was an oversight in the way the zoning board wrote it up. But nonetheless, we still need to get a letter from the building department that he's thumbs up on zoning.
Of course.
And, yep. Is there anybody out in the audience or here that has any, out in Zoom? Is this thing working?
So, the board's not working, the laptop is here, so they can hear, but unfortunately we won't have the screen tonight.
Okay. Is there anybody out in Zoom that would like to ask any questions or comment on anything? I'll take that as a no. And I don't think there's anybody here that is here regarding that. Gentlemen, any more questions? How long would you need?
Well, we're gonna meet with Conservation next week, and their sidewalk's the 1st of March. I don't know when your next meetings are, or if you have a schedule set yet?
Yep, so we have March 5th and March 19th.
I think the 5th may be too soon, because I don't think the Conservation is scheduling the sidewalk till the 7th, I believe. They emailed us today on that. Let me just double check. Yes, so they're not gonna go out to the site until March 7th, so we should go to the 19th meeting. I think that would be safer. That'll give the commission time to obviously have a hearing and view the site, and we can come back on the 19th and hopefully have everybody else on board.
Do we get a sequence of construction for this project, as far as developing the property itself? I just want to ensure that basically this thing is really not, does not have a permit to operate until that asphalt's in, because again, you're gonna be dragging gravel out into the street.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I would think we would have to meet that requirement before we could operate the facility. Yeah, absolutely. And we do have a heavy-duty pavement spec.
Yeah,
because of
like
the
what I
vehicles.
saw was on there was pretty heavy, handled trucks.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw that portion, but it's more about, I just want to make sure it's in place and it's not getting, before they go into operation.
Sure,
You know.
absolutely.
Victoria, can you hear me on that?
Yes, we can hear you.
If I may, can I comment on that? The asphalt and the schedule?
Please introduce yourself for the record, please.
I'm Chris Ciano, I'm the owner, my wife and I are the owner of the property and project.
Okay, go ahead, please.
We've been working on this for quite some time, so we really don't have the schedule in place. But once we start, we like to do the project start to finish, assuming we can work through the town and the permitting process in the next few months. I would think it would be start to finish a 8 to 12 month project, at which time we'd be more than happy to put some binder down or a heavy construction entrance, but we could put some binder down, say the first 100 feet off of Middle Road to to keep the dust and gravel and traffic and anything on the property during construction.
Okay. Yeah, that would be good with us. I think, the building inspector would be the one that would, monitor that. But, yeah, that sounds good. It sounds like a good idea.
I mean, we obviously we have pavement scheduled for the project anyway, so we need to have some type of access during construction, so we could just start with that and get it to a binder point, something the town's satisfactory with, and go from there.
Sounds good.
So this, if I understood you earlier, in your early part of this presentation, this construction probably wouldn't happen until after July, right? The way.
It depends on how the permits and then the appeal periods and everything else. Yeah.
Right, and you gotta release that property from the, land trust, whatever,
Well,
forest protection?
Yeah, when we read the forest management plan, I have a copy of it here, and it actually excludes from the it says excluded area description, mowed field around the house, 3.9 acres, which basically covers the 1.4 acres we have here for this portion of the house, and this field running through here. So this has already been excluded from the forest plan. And then obviously there's a second call out for 2.52 acres, which is the power lines, which is all the way on this edge of the property. So, but yeah, that'll be worked out in that same time period. And Chris is already working with a forest management person to take care of that.
So none of that property is actually in that developed area?
Correct.
That is correct. It is anything with the area we're developing is in residential or the area that is now permitted from the ZBA. It is not in forestry.
Okay. Any more questions, gentlemen? I'll entertain a motion to continue this public hearing until March 19th.
Second that?
Got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you.
If by some chance you don't think you're gonna hit the March, just reach out to Victoria as soon
Yeah,
as
we'll give you enough
possible.
heads up notice so we're not wasting the board's time.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chris.
You guys could hear that. I'm glad you guys could hear that.
You couldn't hear him?
I didn't hear a thing.
Oh, him or the?
Do you want me to move it
On
closer?
the computer.
Yeah, that. I'm in front of equipment all day.
There's a stone.
Cool.
I've left easels in town halls that I can think of, you know,
All right.
over the years.
I've done that, but also picked some up. Courthouses I like.
You guys need an easel? We have one.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, okay.
We're gonna use that one.
Oh, I got,
It's okay, we have one.
John can drop it off at the house later.
Good night now.
Good night, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, moving right along. Next is discussions. This is a request for a minor modification, 50 Main Street, map 7, lot 24, applicant Acushnet Solar LLC / Nexamp. Representative is Evan Conley of Bales and Thomas Inc. Scope of the work is proposed modifications relating to a stormwater and emergency access. Is there somebody here representing Bales and Thomas? Please introduce yourself for the record.
My name is Evan Conley from Fields and Thomas.
and I'm John Markey from New Bedford, Mass. Because in case there are any legal questions that arise, I'm here. Both of us have been dealing with Victoria recently. And just to basically highlight the whole reason we're talking about it as a minor modification, there was an issue with the functioning of the detention pond. Beals and Thomas came in and revised it. It does not radically change the layout of what's existing, but it now makes it functional. It has been peer reviewed, is my understanding. Conservation is good with it, the peer review is good with it. But rather than restarting this entire process with something that, in essence, this board was good with when it was originally presented, but there were some minor things that needed to be modified, we're looking to try to pursue this through that avenue. Unrelated to that particular component, there has been discussion on and off over the years, both in this forum and with the Concom, that there was one particular neighbor across the street who didn't like the ponding that existed back, and you'll see from the presentation, in the 1990s when he probably was in elementary school and I was not. And the fact that, you know, Evan will be able to speak to it, but that his involvement in trying to engage DPW over the time, candidly, in retrospect, and I just learned this through Victoria, DPW never talked to you guys about those conversations. We didn't give it to you ourselves, so shame on us, but we had kind of thought when you talk to the town, you talk to the town. And you know, and I know that, but Evan's younger because in the 1990s he was still in elementary school, so he probably didn't know that. But in any case, we're here to try to say, tonight, I don't think we anticipate, we would love to get a vote, but I think we anticipate that you may have some questions and we may want to have a little bit of a dialogue on it, but we're hoping that may perhaps the March 19th date that you were discussing earlier, or if the questions are more narrow and easier to answer, the March 5th date, we might be able to come back with a request. But for now, it's really an informational session on the second date that didn't happen for a dialogue, you know, some time ago. But I'm available to answer questions, but the smart guy who has the real knowledge is going to be presenting.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. So I think the easiest thing to start with is the plan modifications. So my name's Evan Conley here on behalf of Acushnet Solar. So we originally presented some modifications to this project to the Conservation Commission earlier this year. They asked us to have it peer reviewed, which we had done. Merrill Engineering, Deb Keller did a great job. We worked collaboratively to find a solution to get this basin to function as designed. So essentially the problem was the basin was not dewatering within 72 hours because it was pitched slightly off. The outlet control structure was not designed to work in the real world. So we, as I said, we completed peer review, and with Ms. Keller's suggestion, the Conservation Commission voted unanimously to approve the revisions on their part. So these modifications include regrading to the detention basin to include additional capacity, The outlet has been revised from a typical outlet control structure to a concrete weir. The emergency spillway elevation has been revised and elevated. The trap rock crossing, which I'll point out in a second, that was adjacent to the basin was removed in order to keep water from staying in the basin and not leading to the wetland on the southern side of the site. And at the request of the fire department, we have included a pervious paver system around the site for fire access. So essentially, emergency spillway slightly raised up. We have a different type of outlet control here. We have the pervious pavers going around the solar array for fire access. And there was a small trap rock crossing here, which would, during like large storms, would cause water to go on over the road into this wetland, which was not how it was supposed to be designed. So in general, the limit of work hasn't changed. The idea of the basin, the general footprint of it hasn't changed. And it functions better than what was previously designed. So that is pretty much the summary of the modifications to the site. I don't know if we want to discuss that and then we can talk about the ponding in the front of the site or move into that.
The modifications, unless the board disagrees, I don't think is a major modification.
Mhm.
I'm glad you got it to work. I was out on the site visit. It was in the summertime and that thing was full of water.
Mhm.
So, again, not our area. I'm glad that conservation and peer review have resolved that issue.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, again, if the board disagrees, I don't think this is a major modification. So as far as that's concerned, I'm okay with it. Quick question, the width of the access road, and does the access road go around 360 on both solar arrays?
So 360 on this side. We have a turnaround here. There's a very steep slope right here, and I believe the width is maybe 14 feet on the fire access road, 18 feet on the gravel access road.
And this has been presented to the fire chief and he's approved
It was, yes, a few years ago.
a few years ago, so it's a different chief.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm gonna need this to go back to this chief and get his opinion on it.
Mhm.
We normally require access around the entire array.
Mhm.
We usually require at least 16 feet. So I'm gonna need a letter from this chief saying that this passes his approval.
Okay.
Gentlemen, any questions regarding what he just went through?
No, I agree with what you had to say.
Now move on to why we're here.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right. So, as you are aware, there is stormwater ponding in the front of the site. It's been kind of a sticking point the entire time this project has been going on. In our observations, it appears that it's an existing condition. It was a problem before the project had started. We were asked at one point, I think before my time, to do an evaluation to determine some sort of, just to see what was going on. We issued a drainage evaluation memo to the planning board in November of 2023, which outlined our findings regarding the stormwater ponding, which, to summarize, based off of the topography, our site, 1050 Main Street, is the low point of approximately 2.5 miles up Main Street that all drains down that hill. It all kind of goes to that one point at the bottom of the hill. Currently, there's no municipal drainage along Main Street, so therefore the stormwater runs down the road, runs off the side, goes into ditches, goes into, low points off the side of the road. I will note that the project was approved by the planning board in 2021 based off of stormwater hydrology calculations completed by SciTech, which reduced the runoff rates that went to this area. The approved plan set included a crushed stone filter strip along the northern edge of the road here, which is meant to collect stormwater that comes down the hill and infiltrate into the ground. So I have some images that I will just share with you. So, on the first page, we have, the first picture is the pretty much day one when construction started. The contractor had dug maybe a foot out of soil so that they could install the stabilized construction entrance for the vehicle tracking going on site. That was January 19th. And if you can see in that picture, they stockpiled the soil off to the side. About 5 days later, after maybe, I think, 2.5 to 3 inches of rain over the course of multiple storms, those pictures, you can see the whole site the front of the site is ponded up. Now, this was before the road was elevated. This was before the actual road was put in. All they did was do maybe 50 to 100 feet of that crushed stone for the tracking pad. So this was really before kind of anything happened on the site. Now, the next few pages, if you look on aerial imagery, going back to 1990, there are indications of water staining in this property exactly where the ponding occurs today. So I think that's kind of our point. Like it's an existing condition. We raised the road in an effort to allow the water to travel naturally. I think the abutting property, they built a wall at one point, they raised their property up, so it kind of stops the flow onto our site. I think that's kind of all I have on the images. Regarding our meeting with the Department of Public Works, we met with Dan Menard in February of 2025 to discuss this. The main focus of that site visit was to talk about some sort of solution for the neighbor. There's one neighbor across the street who has indicated that his basement has been flooded since this project started. So the basis of that site visit was to kind of maybe determine some sort of solution for that. Mr. Menard completed his own internal review of the topography and concluded that the elevation of our site was lower than the property across the street. So the water wouldn't go over the road into his property, or it's highly unlikely. Never know what could happen. But Mr. Menard had proposed a collector pipe system that the town would install, that the neighbors could pipe in their sump pumps to, connect their sump pumps to. And the system would run south along Main Street, west along Leonard Street to outlet onto town property. And he said that there were other areas in the town that had this installed. So this proposed piping system would address concerns with the neighbor across the street, but I think it's sort of a bigger picture dealing with the ponding on, the stormwater ponding on the actual site. I think it would kind of lead to the town installing a full drainage system, because as of right now, there isn't one on the site. So I think that's the general summary of it, if you guys have any questions.
Anyone?
I haven't seen, have you seen any of that from Mr. Menard, any of that proposed stuff? I haven't seen it.
Victoria?
Jennifer Duquette, who's the applicant for the project, she has her hand raised on.
Okay, we'll get to her in a second.
Okay.
Yeah, what Steve just said is we haven't seen anything from DBW or from you from DBW, so as far as I'm concerned, that's null and void.
Okay.
That doesn't exist.
So I mean, it was more so kind of a casual sort of site visit. I do have what he had given us, which again, it's just handwritten. If you guys want the copy of it. Yeah, so it's kind of a sketch on site. And just so everyone's aware, our site would be right here. This is Main Street, and then the neighbors across there. Goes Main Street, and then Leonard Street.
Yeah, I'm sure Dan can understand all this. I certainly can't.
This has been an issue for years. The last time we spoke about this, you said that there was going to be a resolution to the water issue. Since 2023, obviously nothing's been done. I will agree that this issue is an issue prior to you getting there, without a doubt. Everybody in town that lives in town knows that yard fills up with water. But when you have an area that's this big, that fills up with water, and then all of a sudden you cut that area in half, that water doesn't have the same area to sit in. That is where you come in, where you have now changed what was okay at the time, because water at the time was not flowing over. You came in and you put in a 3-foot-high road, which, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, that's a modification to the plans, which still hasn't been presented to the board, any modification to that road.
I apologize, that was before my time. I think that was. It was in the most recent plan set from 2023. But I can check on that.
And I could be wrong as well, and we'll have that looked into. And as far as you saying that the property across the street is lower than the property, it could be. But I visually drove my truck through the river that went across the street. So to say, it's unlikely, no, it's likely, I saw it, I drove through it. And if I'm not mistaken, which I'm not 100% sure, somebody hydroplaned and there was, from what I'm told, an accident. I don't have definite proof on that, but so I'm told. Again, if you had never been there, then maybe the water would continue to pool up in that yard like all the pictures that you showed us. Probably. But now that you've come in and taken a good portion of that pooling area out, now the pooling area is much smaller and the water is going across the street. I had asked, and we've had multiple internal meetings. We had a meeting with the Board of Health agent, Conservation. We even sent Ms. Duquette options on how to solve this issue. We're not engineers. We just sat around saying, hey, what can we do here? What can we do there? Crickets. And to this day, still not, we could possibly do this, we could possibly do that, you know, we've thought of this, or we've thought of that. Not one. You just come back here 2 years later with the exact same information you had 2 years ago with no resolution to the issue. Now what?
I think it's open for discussion and.
Then let's discuss. What are we gonna do to fix the issue?
Mhm.
Jen still has her hand raised.
Mr. Kett,
Hi, good evening. I actually had something I wanted to reference a while back from the fire chief approval of the fire lane. I do actually have that approval. It was sent to me in January of 2025. And Mark Francois, you're also on that email. I'm happy to re-forward it to you for your records.
thank you. And that's good that it has gone to the chief, and this chief has approved it. As long as he's okay with it, it's his domain, it's his area. If he's okay with it, then I'm good with it.
Okay, thank you.
So now, we cannot, I actually rewatched the meeting that, and this was, I think, back in '21, before I was even on the board, where the gentleman that lived across the street came into the planning board meeting and was complaining about the water going over into his property. Again, I can't, as a board, we can't approve this. You guys go in, do what you gotta do, you're gone, and now we get, you know, these big rains that we've been getting more and more of lately. And now, in 4 months in the spring, or 2 months in the spring, I'm gonna have abutters coming knocking on our door, yelling at us that they're getting issues. We had a major issue, as I'm sure you're well aware, right here on Main Street, from another solar company. Again, all the water, the stormwater was a disaster, wells were being polluted, it was a disaster. It's our job to look out for that, even if it's just the one guy across the street. I was really hoping that you were gonna come in and you were gonna say, well, we might be able to do this, and we're thinking about doing that, but you haven't.
We try to, I do recall having at least one meeting with you, Mark, and I recall, Mr. Chairman, I recall meeting with the town administrator saying we want to try to address it. When I left the town administrator meeting, the message I received, and again, I know you're gonna say this is just like your conversation, was try to address the issue with the neighbor. That should be the focus. That's how I left, because that's the person who came and was heard. So when we were trying to address it, and I think when the DPW conversation happened, was what's the solutions we can try to do for him? We had talked about if the town is gonna do a broader project to try to solve more of that overall area, we would be willing to contribute money towards buying pipes so that DPW could install things. The DPW have an idea of what they wanted to do. I was a part of discussions to see if that was going to be explored. It didn't seem that there was an appetite in DPW that we could do something that would address this property without having it become a much bigger problem. We then turned to say, how would we solve the problem for the neighbor? And there was some discussions about, well, rather than contributing money to the town or pipe to the town to help them solve the problem, because obviously if you guys go out to bid to buy pipe, if you guys go out to bid for an outside contractor, it's going to cost a lot more money to solve a bigger problem. So we said, maybe we could take that money and give it to the neighbor and enter into an agreement or arrangement with him to help solve his problem. Even though, I guess, theoretically, and I understand exactly what you said, we contend this is a pre-existing problem. You've said, so those were the two angles that we played. It seems to me that since you said that there's been kind of some general spitballing on your end, that with all the players, with Jen being involved, with Chris as the owner of the project being here, me, different engineers, this is the second set of engineers on the project, and we're trying to be as responsive in a sense as we can with all these players. The next best logical thing, it seems to me, would be for us to have a meeting with DPW and a representative from your team to say, spitball these ideas. Does DPW think it will work? Does our engineer think it will work? And to give us enough time so when we come back on March 19th, we say, there was a meaningful meeting, you presented some ideas, this is what DPW thought about it, this is what we thought about it. Is it feasible, is it not feasible? That would be what I would suggest, if that's, I don't know if you've,
I mean, if we can get a meeting with Dan Menard and you and your engineers, and you guys can come up with, and Dan Menard is in agreement, then I would probably also, with whatever you guys decide, I'd probably also want to send this off to a third-party engineering firm for a peer review. None of us are engineers up here to say, yes, that's gonna work or not gonna work. But to cover our behind, I think whatever we come up with would need to be peer reviewed. But what's disappointing is that at the moment, you guys came in front of us with nothing. I mean, absolutely nothing, which I'll tell you is disappointing. I was hoping to say, yeah, sounds good, let's send it to peer review and let's see what an engineer would say about this. But in the past 2 years, since November 14, 2023, and now, and no disrespect, Mr. Markey, you know, now you come in after 2 years of saying you worked on it, but you got nothing to show for it. Now you're gonna say, ooh, let's get this done by the 19th of next month. That, I don't, you know,
understood. I do, this obviously has been fits and spurts. When there were meetings and we tried to come up with a solution that we thought everybody could be on board with, it didn't seem that there was a practical solution, because it is not the resolution is not going to be resolved on this site. There's a broader topography thing that relates to a much bigger area. So I think that became the problem. We said, if we buy the pipe, how long would you have to go? And DPW said, well, it's going to be a half mile down the road, and it's going to be a number of bigger problems that are now, does he want to take that on as a project? Or, you know, because that became what happened. So it's kind of, I own the responsibility for not really pushing it, but once I kind of got the message that it wasn't going to be something that was very feasible, that they had an appetite for. But now that we've heard from you that this is something that you need to know with a memo that DPW has signed off on, that these things have all been explored, I think that's the best thing.
I just feel that something needs to get done. The water needs, we had spoken, Victoria and I had spoken with the Board of Health agent at the time, and he came up with, Victoria, do you recall the name of that system that he was talking about?
Like a swale?
Well, it was kind of like adding a retention pond into the property, up along your easement, to give, again, more space for the water to go on your property and not onto the road. If the area was this big, now you cut it in half, take that area and dig into your property and make it back to that size, so there's a bigger area like it was. You follow? I'm not an engineer, but you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was one option, and which I don't know if it's possible or not, but
You had cut the containment area of the water down considerably, not just a little, a lot. It wasn't just, you know, oh, we took 10 feet. No, you took almost 40 feet of that away. Somewhere that water's gotta go.
I would recommend, unless the board has anything else to say, I would recommend that you guys talk to DPW, put your engineering caps on, and come to us with something, anything, that will help alleviate this water. Please.
Understood.
All right.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Do you want to just do a motion to continue?
Yeah, let's do a motion to continue. Do we have to set it on a particular date?
Notice the status report on the 19th? And if it turns out something gets positive, is that okay with you all?
Let's do that. I'll entertain a motion to continue this request for minor modification until March 19th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just the last question, if we do have a meeting with DPW, should we just run through Victoria to see if any one of you would like to attend?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay.
please keep me on the email chain, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Somebody from this board should be there.
That's what we'd like to have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if we can't for whatever reason, then Victoria would attend, but somebody from this board should be in attendance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, have a good night.
Okay, moving right along. Request for minor modification, 1094 Main Street, Clems Way, 7, Lot 15. Applicant, Clems Way Solar LLC, Rewind Renewables. Representative, Bales and Thomas, Inc. Excuse me. Scope of the work is proposed relocation of emergency spillways and payment in lieu of tree planting. I don't think is there anybody on Zoom for this? I don't think there is.
He did come on, yep.
You did?
Yes.
Is anybody out there from Bales and Thomas for 1094 Main Street?
Zach's here on Zoom in case you guys have any questions, but I kind of outlined things for Victoria in an email prior to this meeting.
You did, Zach. I'm just gonna hold on a second. Let me break up the plans so I can take a look.
I was going to screen share those,
Oh, absolutely.
but
But you can't.
I think I can.
Okay.
Just, if you wanna give me 1 second.
Didn't we go through this last night?
But it's a new wire, so hopefully.
Maybe. You got
Hey,
it.
look at that.
There you go, there you go.
Fabulous.
All right.
Oh, do you want me to speak to it?
Just, if you could just point out on the plan, so just a little bit of, remember it's a background, gentlemen. One of the, before we approved, this is Clem's Way, before we approved it, we were, I forgot exactly which member, was a little kind of concerned regarding the spillways of the retention ponds. They went directly onto the abutters property. We asked Bales and Thomas to try to redirect as best possible so the water kind of stayed on their own property. They said they did that in Victoria.
So there's one right here. This is the northern emergency spillway, so you can see it's away from the property line, and then also northeast.
So basically they backed it up a little bit.
Correct, to the extent possible. So
The
Yeah.
spillway should cascade north from the first basin to the second basin, and then west into the third basin, and then drain onto the wetland on our property. So we kind of created a cascading effect with the basins, so that in the event we reached a rain event where emergency spillways were utilized, all that water would cascade onto our property and not the neighbors. So that was the kind of special request of the planning board. Prior to your approval, if you recall, about a week later, the Conservation Commission approved this design. I'm just coming back to make sure you guys have this full design set of record that incorporates your kind of final request.
Yeah, I've spoken to conservation and hold on, Victoria, we can see everything.
oh, my bad, I forgot.
We did speak to conservation and I did ask them to keep an eye on that, and I appreciate you doing what you could to move those as best you could. I know it's not, without changing the entire plan set, it's not an easy task, so I appreciate you doing what you could. And if conservation's happy, let's see if the board has any issues.
I'm happy with the effort compared to what we were looking at in the
Yeah,
beginning
yeah.
and where we brought it
I think
up.
what we asked.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, that's good. I think we're all in agreement with that. And then their second was the
The payment in lieu of the tree planting.
payment in lieu of the tree. So we asked them if they were able to replant some of the trees that they're going to remove on that back site. and there really isn't very many options to replant the trees. And we didn't also offer them very many options to replant trees. So their remedy was to give the town a sum of money,
$7,500.
$7,500, to go towards a fund in lieu of replanting the trees. We are in the process of organizing a fund for this particular situation. We have spoken to the town accountant, and we are going to temporarily open I think it's called like a gift fund, so where we can accept these funds, and then when we do open up let's call it a tree fund, we will transfer that money, that gift fund, over to the tree fund. So that's kind of the scope of that.
Just one question, basically for Zach. I know he had mentioned it last time, the estimated amount of trees that were coming out.
75.
There were 75.
For the I believe it's 12 inches in caliber.
Okay, it was 75, all right.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, it's a small number. It's only about 3.5 acres of clearing. There's not a lot of mature trees there, but as I kind of summarized in the email, we use the exact same value methodology as we've been using in Rochester with that planning board for years, where we take value of saw timber, firewood, pulpwood from the entire site. And so we got something right around 6,000. I just kind of rounded it up to 7,500. Not a huge number, but obviously not a large number of trees that are coming down on this site.
Right. No, I agree. Gentlemen, any questions?
No, I think seems like they addressed what we asked them to address.
I'd entertain a motion to, if we accept the payment of $7,500 in lieu of, I don't know if it's either in lieu of transplanting trees based on our current bylaw. I don't know if you call that I don't know what you would call it. I don't know if it's a waiver or whatever it is.
No, that was appropriate because it was a condition of their site plan approval to provide the board a tree planting plan to replant those. So that was appropriate.
Yep.
That was a good motion.
So we have a motion on the trees.
I'll second it.
We got a second, all in favor?
Aye.
And now can we get a motion to approve the minor modification with the spillways?
I'll make a motion to approve the minor modification of the spillways at the northeast end of the site, I think it is.
I'll second that.
We got a motion, we got a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 So that's set with them, they're free and clear.
I'll write up a letter just so they have it for their record, and I'll get the check for the trees and try to get that set up.
Very good. Zach, I appreciate the effort to do what you did to move the spillways and for the tree replanting.
All right, thank you guys. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna table this next one, the continued discussion on amending the business village district. I'm gonna say I am guilty of not doing my homework because we were supposed to highlight the for use for this, and I haven't had time. So we're gonna table this next one until the next meeting, and then I know that Victoria's already been prepared with some maps and with other things that we can move forward with a discussion on amending the business village district. Nothing else has come in within the last 48 hours. Our next meeting is Thursday, March 5th Is there anything else anybody would like to discuss?
Nope.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to close.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.